"You've always been the strong one, Lily. She just needed it more." That's what my mother said, right after she handed my sister the keys to the house I grew up in. The same house I helped pay for. The same house where I spent years caring for our dying father while she traveled the world on Dad's credit card. That sentence, wrapped in a smile, cut deeper than any insult ever could. Because it wasn't new. It was just the final nail in a lifetime of silent rejection. My name is Lily Morgan, and I've been the second choice my entire life. Not because I failed, but because my sister cried louder and smiled prettier and needed more. That's what they always said. But one day, I found out what she really did, and everything changed. My sister's name is Jenna, 2 years younger than me. Golden hair, easy charm, a voice that could convince water to flow uphill. She was the kind of girl who made waiters slip her extra desserts and teachers overlook late homework. And our parents? They adored her. I was the planner, the fixer, the one who remembered birthdays, cleaned up messes, and made excuses when Jenna didn't come home until 4 a.m. Every family has an easy one and a difficult one, right? But in ours, the easy one got everything. When Dad got sick, I moved back home. I gave up my job in the city, put my career on hold, handled appointments, insurance, meds. Jenna visited twice in 8 months. Both times, she stayed for less than a day. And yet, when he passed, she gave the eulogy, told stories that weren't hers to tell. And somehow, everyone clapped. After the funeral, we gathered in the living room. Mom sat with a thick envelope on her lap. Her voice was calm. "Your father left instructions. He wanted to pass things down while we were still together, not through cold paperwork." I nodded. Jenna smiled. Mom pulled out the first document, the house deed. "He wanted Jenna to have the house." I blinked. "What? That's not possible. I've been paying the mortgage with him for years." "He said Jenna needed a fresh start," Mom said gently. "And you're already established, Lily. You're fine." I felt the room tilt. Established? I was living in the guest room. I had no job, no savings, no apartment. I'd spent 2 years caregiving while Jenna sent postcards from beaches I couldn't afford to dream about. But apparently, I was fine. Jenna got the house, the car, the furniture. I got a handshake and a pat on the back for being so strong. I packed my bags that night, didn't even cry, until I was halfway down the driveway. And even then, it wasn't for what I lost. It was for what I never had. But 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. I got a call from a woman named Eleanor. She was my father's former assistant. "Lily," she said, "I need to meet with you. There's something your dad left behind." I thought everything was already given out, I said bitterly. "Not this," she replied. "He didn't trust anyone else with it, especially not your mother." I met her at a coffee shop on the edge of town. She looked nervous, kept checking the windows. Then she slid a manila envelope across the table. "He gave this to me 6 months before he passed. Told me not to open it, just to make sure you got it." My heart thudded. I opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter, in my father's familiar script. And the first line made my hands tremble. "Lily, if you're reading this, something went wrong." "Lily, if you're reading this, something went wrong." That first line of Dad's letter felt like it burned through my skin. My eyes darted down the page, barely breathing. "I know your mother will favor Jenna. She always has. I've tried to fight it, but I see how deep it runs. That's why I've created a second will, the real one, the one that reflects the truth." I stopped reading. Second will? Dad? Knew? He knew. The weight of it all crashed into me. Years of gaslighting suddenly clarified with one sentence from a dying man who hadn't said enough while he was alive. "This letter contains the safe deposit box key. Everything is in there. My lawyer's name is George Harland. He'll know what to do. Lily. I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner." Taped to the bottom of the letter was a tiny silver key. The next day, I stood outside a bank I hadn't stepped foot in since I was 12. The vault clerk led me to a box marked under my father's business account. Inside, 2 things: a stamped envelope with the second will, 2, a USB flash drive labeled "Jenna Do Not Delete." I swallowed hard. I hadn't come looking for dirt, but apparently Dad had found some. The lawyer, George Harland, was everything you'd imagine an old family attorney to be. Suspenders, coffee breath, and a 1,000-yard stare. But when I slid the will across his desk, he sat up straighter, much straighter. "Where did you get this?" "My father left it for me, secretly. This is the real one, isn't it?" He nodded, slow and grim. "Yes, yes it is, and this changes everything." Dad hadn't left everything to Jenna. In fact, she wasn't even supposed to get the house. It was mine. The car? Supposed to be sold, and the profits split. The savings? Equal portions. Not more for Jenna because she needed it, but fair, balanced, intentional. Dad's first will had been forged or altered. We didn't know by whom yet, but George agreed to launch an inquiry. And that flash drive, I hadn't looked at it. Not yet, but a storm was brewing inside me. I could feel it. I didn't tell Mom, didn't tell Jenna. I smiled at their Instagram posts, the renovations, the champagne, the new puppy in my childhood backyard. But inside, I was lighting matches, one by one. Then came the moment. I plugged in the flash drive, shaky hands, tight chest. Inside were 3 video files. The first was a screen recording of Jenna on a Zoom call. She didn't know she was being recorded. She was talking to a man, a name I recognized, one of Dad's business partners. "I'm not waiting for him to die," she said. "We already edited the documents. My mom's on board. She'll play dumb." My mouth went dry. The second video, her laughing while holding a paper. "He won't even know it's not the one he signed. God, he's too drugged to notice." I closed the laptop. My hands were ice. My throat burned. They had stolen from a dying man. They had stolen from me. That night, I went to the house. I didn't knock. I had a key. It was, after all, mine. Jenna was hosting friends in the living room. All smiles and wine and music. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, the color drained from her face. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. I didn't answer. I walked to the center of the room, held up the flash drive. "Thought I'd return something that belongs to you." She blinked. "What is that?" I smiled. "Evidence." Then I turned and left. Let them panic. Let them wonder. Let them try to spin their web again. Because this time, I had the scissors. By morning, my phone had exploded. 24 missed calls from Mom, 6 from Jenna, 3 voicemails from an unknown number, probably their lawyer. But I didn't respond. I let them stew. Because for once, I had control. For once, they were scrambling to explain themselves. George, Dad's lawyer, filed an emergency petition. The court agreed to review the new will. The forged one would be investigated. The assets frozen. Jenna's new Range Rover, no longer hers. The housewarming party she'd planned, canceled. Her smug little empire built on guilt and lies was beginning to crack. But what I wasn't prepared for was Mom's reaction. She showed up at my tiny apartment. No makeup, no smile, just trembling hands clutching her purse like a shield. "Lily," she whispered, "please, can we talk?" I let her in. She stood in the hallway like she didn't recognize the space, like it wasn't the daughter's home she'd never bothered to visit. "You've always been so dramatic," she said softly. "Why are you doing this?" I nearly laughed. "Why did you do this?" I asked. "Why did you let her take everything?" "Because Jenna needed it," she said again, like a mantra. "She always needed more." I stared at her, finally said what had been sitting in my chest for decades. "You gave her more, but it didn't make her good. And you gave me less, and it didn't make me weak." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Because there was nothing left to say. I expected things to escalate slowly, but the next week was chaos. Jenna showed up to the bank and was told her accounts were under review. She called me, screaming, "You're ruining my life." "No," I said calmly. "You did that when you decided to fake a dying man's signature." She went quiet, dead quiet, then whispered, "He was going to give it all to me anyway." "No, Jenna, he wasn't. That's why you had to lie." A week later, I received another letter. This one was from the investigator handling Dad's will. He confirmed it. The original will had been destroyed. The fake version printed with altered dates, matching signatures, all manipulated while Dad was in hospice care. Jenna and my mother were both complicit, but because it was a civil matter, and because Dad had died without registering the second will, the legal fight was complicated. Still, we had a path. I could contest the entire inheritance, freeze and reclaim all assets, possibly even press charges. But that wasn't the part that twisted my stomach. It was the final page of the report. It listed the email evidence found on Jenna's account. Dozens of messages, back and forth, about how to make me appear unstable if I tried to fight them. Emails where my mother wrote things like, "If Lily starts asking questions, we'll say she's having another breakdown. She used to cry at night. Remember that? Just keep her away until the house is in your name." They were planning my erasure from the beginning. And yet here I stood, unbroken, not erased, not forgotten, just beginning. I stood outside the courthouse in a navy blue blazer that wasn't mine. I'd borrowed it from a friend, but I held my head high. Inside, Jenna and Mom sat with their attorney, a flashy man with too much gel and not enough soul. They barely looked at me. The hearing was brief, almost cold, but every second felt like a vindication. George presented the second will. The judge asked a few sharp questions, then he looked over his glasses and said, "This appears to be the decedent's true intent." With that one sentence, everything shifted. The house returned to my name, the business savings split fairly and legally, the car sold as Dad intended, and the money divided. Jenna's false fortune unraveled like wet paper, and for once, silence fell over our family. Not the silence of dismissal or shame, but the silence of realization, of exposure, of consequences. A week after the ruling, I returned to the house, my house, alone. I walked barefoot through the kitchen where Dad used to sneak me apple slices, through the hallway where Jenna once pushed me into the wall and laughed when I cried, through the living room where for years I had been invisible. I stood there, let the silence settle, then whispered, "I'm home." Jenna, she moved into a small apartment across town. She still works, still posts selfies, but something's changed. There's no glitter behind the smiles now, only fear of who might expose the next lie. Mom, she called a few times, left messages, said she was just confused, that she never meant harm, that she was just trying to help Jenna find her footing. But the truth, she never saw me, not really, not until I made them all look. Weeks passed. I started opening boxes from Dad's study. Inside one, I found a photo of me on my graduation day. It was creased from being folded so many times. On the back, in Dad's handwriting, "She always walked her own path. I hope she knows how proud I am." I sat down on the floor, clutched the photo to my chest, let the tears fall freely, because I knew now, I had been loved, I had been seen. Even if too late, I had been chosen. And the letter, the one that started it all, I framed it, hung it right by the front door, so every time I walk out into the world, I remember. Truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits, in quiet drawers, in dusty boxes, in forgotten vaults. And when it's finally revealed, it has the power to burn down everything built on lies. And in the ashes, you rise, stronger, surer, seen.